After 65, the gap between those who move with confidence and those who shuffle carefully grows wider every single day. In Japan, people in their 70s and 80s navigate stairs without handrails, squat to garden for hours, and walk miles through hilly neighborhoods without a second thought. Meanwhile, in the United States and much of the West, we see something different. Nearly 1 in 3 adults over 65 falls each year, and half of those who break a hip never return to their previous level of independence. The difference isn't genetics. It's not luck. It's 6 specific movements that older Japanese people weave into their daily routines. Movements so simple you might dismiss them, yet so effective they can reshape your balance, strength, and freedom in a matter of weeks. What most people don't realize is that these aren't exercises in the way you might think. There's no gym membership required, no special equipment, and you won't be gasping for air or counting reps until your muscles burn. Instead, these are movements built into the fabric of everyday life, practiced in kitchens, hallways, and doorways, often without even thinking about them. The Japanese call this concept shikatsu undu, which translates roughly to life movement. The idea that motion itself is medicine when it's done consistently and correctly. And here's what makes this approach so powerful for anyone over 65. It targets the exact physical vulnerabilities that lead to falls, fractures, and the loss of independence, but it does so gently, progressively, and in ways that actually feel good. Now, I'm going to walk you through all 6 of these movements, starting with the simplest and building to the one that researchers believe has the most profound impact on longevity and brain health. Number 6 might seem almost too easy, and you'll be tempted to skip it, but stick with me, because the mechanism behind why it works is fascinating. Number 2 is the one that surprises people the most because it involves something you probably do every day already, just not in the way that actually protects your joints and bones. And number 1, the most powerful of all, is a practice that takes less than 90 seconds but has been linked to measurable improvements in blood pressure, cognitive function, and even mood regulation. Before we dive in, I'm curious, how old are you and where are you watching this from? Drop your age and location in the comments. I read every single one, and it helps me understand who's here and what you're dealing with. Let's start with movement number 6, the practice of sitting and rising from the floor without using your hands. In traditional Japanese homes, people sit on tatami mats or low cushions for meals, tea, and conversation, which means they're lowering themselves to the floor and standing back up multiple times a day, often well into their 80s and 90s. This isn't just cultural tradition. It's one of the most effective full-body strength and balance assessments you can perform, and it doubles as a training tool that builds exactly the kind of functional fitness that keeps you independent. When you lower yourself to the floor and rise without using your hands for support, you're demanding coordination from your hips, knees, ankles, and core all at once. You're also testing your proprioception, which is your body's ability to sense where it is in space, a skill that declines rapidly after 60 but can be restored with practice. There's a widely discussed assessment in exercise science that scores people on their ability to sit and rise from the floor using minimal support, and the results are striking. Those who can complete the movement with little to no hand support show significantly better markers of overall fitness and longevity compared to those who struggle or require assistance. The beauty of this movement is that it's scalable. If you can't get all the way to the floor yet, you start with a low stool or a thick cushion, and over weeks you lower the height as your strength and confidence grow. Let me tell you about Margaret, 71, a retired postal worker from Oregon who spent decades walking her route but never sat on the floor, not once in over 20 years. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been down there. When she first tried the sit-to-floor movement, she needed both hands, a chair for support, and even then she felt shaky and uncertain. I told her to practice just once a day, using whatever support she needed, and to focus on control rather than speed. Within 3 weeks, she was lowering herself to a thick cushion using only one hand. Within 2 months, she made it all the way to the floor and back up with no hands at all, and she told me the shift wasn't just physical. She felt capable again, like her body was something she could trust instead of something that might betray her. Here's how you start. Clear a space with a soft surface. A yoga mat or carpet works well. Stand with your feet hip-width apart. If you need support, place a sturdy chair or countertop nearby. Begin by bending one knee and lowering that knee toward the floor, almost like a lunge. Once the knee touches down, bring the other knee down so you're kneeling. From there, shift your weight to one side and sit your hips down beside your feet. To rise, reverse the process. Shift your weight, bring one knee up, press through that foot, and stand. Start with full hand support if you need it. Over time, reduce the support to just fingertips, then try no hands at all. Practice once a day, every day. This is not about speed. It's about control, balance, and rebuilding trust in your own body. If you have severe knee pain or a recent injury, skip this movement and talk to a physical therapist first. But for most people over 65, this is not only safe, it's essential. Now, let's move to number 5, and this one happens in the kitchen more than anywhere else. It's the practice of squatting deeply, the way you might to retrieve something from a low cabinet or to sit on a traditional Japanese toilet. In the West, we've engineered the squat out of daily life. We have high toilets, tall chairs, and we bend at the waist instead of the hips when we pick things up, which is exactly how people blow out their lower backs and strain their knees. In Japan, even older adults maintain the ability to squat with their heels flat on the ground, hips below knee level, spine upright. This position opens the hips, strengthens the glutes and quadriceps, and decompresses the lower spine in a way that sitting in a chair simply cannot replicate. The deep squat also serves as a diagnostic. If you can't squat deeply without pain or without your heels lifting off the ground, it tells you that your ankle mobility, hip flexibility, or both are compromised. And those limitations are red flags for future falls and movement dysfunction. The good news is that with consistent practice, most people can restore a functional squat pattern, even if they haven't done it in decades. There's been increasing attention in musculoskeletal research on the benefits of deep squatting for joint health, particularly in populations that maintain the practice into older age. Some findings suggest that, contrary to the old belief that squatting is hard on the knees, a properly performed deep squat can actually nourish knee cartilage by moving synovial fluid through the joint, which keeps the tissue healthy and pain-free. I worked with a man named Robert, 68, a former electrician from Texas who told me his knees were shot. He'd been told by a doctor years earlier to avoid squatting at all costs, that it would grind his joints down to nothing. But Robert's real problem wasn't his knees. It was that his hips and ankles were so stiff from decades of sitting and standing with no middle ground that his knees had to absorb all the stress whenever he bent down. I had him start with a simple progression. He'd hold onto a countertop, feet shoulder-width apart, and lower himself just a few inches, only as far as he could go while keeping his heels down and his chest up. Every few days, he'd go a little deeper. After about 6 weeks, Robert could squat all the way down, pause for a few seconds, and stand back up with no knee pain at all. He said it felt like his hips had been locked in a cage for 20 years, and someone finally opened the door. Here's your protocol. Stand facing a countertop or sturdy table, holding on lightly for balance. Place your feet slightly wider than shoulder width, toes pointing out just a bit. Slowly bend your knees and hips, lowering yourself as if sitting back into a chair, but keep going as low as you comfortably can while keeping your heels on the ground and your chest lifted. Don't let your knees collapse inward. Pause at the bottom for 1 or 2 seconds, then press through your heels to stand. Start with 5 repetitions once a day. As you get stronger, hold the bottom position longer, up to 10 or 15 seconds. Eventually, let go of the countertop. If your heels lift, place a thin book or folded towel under them temporarily to reduce the demand on your ankles and work on ankle mobility separately by doing calf stretches against a wall. Avoid this if you've had a recent hip or knee replacement without clearance from your surgeon, but for most people this is not just safe, it's restorative. Let's move to number 4, walking backward. This sounds almost silly until you understand what it does. In Japan, you'll sometimes see older adults walking backwards slowly and deliberately in parks or along quiet streets, and it's not a quirky habit. It's a deliberate practice to improve balance, strengthen the posterior chain, which includes your glutes, hamstrings, and lower back, and to challenge your brain in a way that forward walking simply doesn't. When you walk backward, your body has to recalibrate. You can't see where you're going, so your vestibular system, the balance center in your inner ear, has to work harder. Your feet and ankles have to make constant micro-adjustments to keep you stable. Your brain has to process spatial information differently, which is why backward walking has been studied as a tool for improving cognitive function and reducing fall risk in older adults. Research from rehabilitation centers has shown that backward walking can improve gait speed, balance confidence, and knee strength in older populations, sometimes more effectively than traditional forward walking programs. It also reduces the impact load on the knees, which makes it an excellent option for people dealing with arthritis or chronic knee pain. I'll tell you about Linda, 73. A retired teacher from Ohio who had become terrified of walking on uneven ground after a bad fall 2 years earlier left her with a fractured wrist. She avoided parks, hiking trails, even her own backyard if the grass was too long. I introduced her to backward walking on a flat, clear hallway in her home, just 10 steps back and forth, moving slowly with one hand on the wall for safety. At first, she felt ridiculous, like she was doing some kind of party trick. But after 2 weeks, something shifted. Her confidence on regular walks improved. She felt steadier on her feet. Within a month, she was walking backward outside on her driveway, and within 2 months, she was back in the park on gravel paths. No fear, just focus and control. Here's how you do it safely. Find a long, clear, flat space indoors. A hallway works perfectly. Stand at one end with your back to the open space. Place one hand on the wall or a sturdy surface for light support. Slowly step backward with one foot, placing your toes down first, then rolling through to the heel. Keep your steps small and controlled. Your knees should stay slightly bent. Your core should stay engaged, not rigid, just lightly braced. Walk backward for 10 to 20 steps, turn around and walk forward back to the start. Repeat this 3 to 5 times, once a day. As you get more comfortable, reduce your reliance on the wall. Eventually, try it outdoors on a flat, empty driveway or sidewalk, but always make sure the path behind you is clear and consider having someone watch your back until you're confident. If you have severe balance issues or vertigo, talk to a physical therapist before trying this. But for most people, backward walking is a low-risk, high-reward movement that builds resilience fast. Now we're at number 3, and this one involves breathing, but not the way you think. It's called Seiza breathing, and it's done while kneeling in a formal seated position, sitting back on your heels with your spine tall and your hands resting on your thighs. In traditional Japanese culture, Seiza is a posture used during tea ceremonies, meditation, and formal gatherings, and while it might look passive, it's actually demanding. It requires ankle flexibility, core stability, and a kind of postural endurance that most Westerners have never developed. But the real magic happens when you pair this position with deliberate, deep breathing, specifically a pattern where you inhale slowly through your nose, hold briefly, and exhale even more slowly through your nose or mouth. This combination does something remarkable. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system responsible for rest, repair, and recovery, which tends to become underactive as we age. At the same time, the kneeling position gently stretches your ankles and feet, areas that become notoriously stiff and contribute to balance problems and falls. And because you're sitting upright with no back support, your deep core muscles, the ones that stabilize your spine, have to fire continuously, which builds endurance without any overt effort. Studies on controlled breathing techniques have shown measurable reductions in blood pressure, improvements in heart rate variability, which is a marker of cardiovascular and autonomic health, and even enhanced cognitive performance in older adults. The combination of posture and breath makes this practice particularly effective. Let me tell you about George, 69, a retired firefighter from Michigan who came to me with chronic lower back pain and high blood pressure that his doctor was struggling to control with medication alone. George was skeptical of anything that looked like meditation or yoga. He wanted something concrete, something that felt like work. I had him try CISA breathing for just 3 minutes every morning, and I framed it as a strength hold with a breathing drill, which made it more palatable. For the first few days, his ankles hurt, and he could barely sit back on his heels without propping himself up with cushions. But he stuck with it. After 2 weeks, his ankles loosened up. After a month, he noticed his back pain was less severe in the mornings. And here's the kicker. At his next doctor's appointment, his blood pressure had dropped 12 points systolic and 8 points diastolic. His doctor asked what he'd changed, and George said, "I'm kneeling and breathing for 3 minutes a day." The doctor didn't quite know what to make of it. But the numbers didn't lie. Here's your protocol. Start by placing a thick cushion or folded blanket on the floor. Kneel down so your knees are together or slightly apart, whatever feels more stable, and sit back on your heels. If your ankles are too stiff or painful, place a rolled towel or another cushion between your calves and thighs to reduce the angle. Sit as upright as you can, hands resting lightly on your thighs, shoulders relaxed. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 2. Then exhale slowly through your nose or mouth for a count of 6. Repeat this breathing pattern for 3 to 5 minutes. Do this once a day, ideally in the morning. As your ankles become more flexible, you can remove the extra cushioning and sit deeper into the position. If you have severe knee pain or a knee replacement, you can do the breathing part while sitting upright in a firm chair with your feet flat on the floor. The breath pattern is what matters most. Before we go further, I want to hear from you. Have you ever tried any kind of kneeling position or deep breathing practice, even just once? Drop a yes or no in the comments, and if yes, tell me what you noticed. Your experiences help other people feel less alone in this. Number 2 is the one that surprises almost everyone because it's something you already do multiple times a day, but almost certainly not in the way that protects your joints and builds real strength. It's the practice of sitting down into a chair and standing back up slowly, with control, and without using your hands to push off. In Japan, even older adults tend to sit and rise from chairs, stools, and low benches with a kind of fluid control that most Westerners lose by their 50s. We plop down, we rock forward and push off with our hands, and over time, this pattern teaches our bodies that our legs aren't strong enough to do the job alone, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The legs get weaker because we stop asking them to work, and the weaker they get, the more we rely on our hands until one day we can't get up without assistance at all. This simple act of sitting and standing without hands is one of the most functional strength tests there is. It requires strong quadriceps, glutes, and core stability, and it mimics the exact movement pattern you need to get up from a toilet, out of a car, or off the ground after a fall. The Japanese practice this naturally because their furniture is often lower, and their cultural habits encourage mindful, controlled movement, but you can train it deliberately, and the results come fast. There's a well-known assessment used in geriatric and exercise research called the sit-to-stand test, where people are timed on how many times they can sit and stand from a standard chair in 30 seconds. Those who score in the higher ranges show better overall strength, mobility, and lower risk of falls and frailty. The good news is that this is one of the most trainable movements there is, and improvements can happen in just a few weeks. It worked with a woman named Patricia, 74, a retired hairdresser from California who told me she'd started avoiding friends' houses because she was embarrassed about how hard it was for her to get out of low chairs. She'd rock forward 2 or 3 times, push off with both hands, and even then, she sometimes needed help. It was humiliating, she said, and it made her feel old in a way that nothing else did. I had her start with a simple progression at home. She'd sit down into a dining chair, pause for a second, and then stand up using just one hand on the armrest, moving as slowly and controlled as she could. Every few days, she'd lighten the pressure on that hand, using less and less assistance. After 3 weeks, she stood up with no hands for the first time in years. After 6 weeks, she could do 10 repetitions in a row, slow and steady, no rocking, no pushing. She told me it was like getting a piece of her dignity back. Here's how to train it. Find a sturdy chair with a seat height that allows your knees to be at about 90 degrees when you sit, or just slightly higher. Sit down slowly, taking 3 to 4 seconds to lower yourself, keeping your chest up and your weight in your heels. Pause for a moment in the seated position. Now stand up, again taking 3 to 4 seconds, pressing through your heels and using your legs, not your hands. If you need to use your hands at first, that's fine. Place them lightly on the armrests or your thighs and use just enough assistance to complete the movement. Each day, try to use a little less hand support. Once you can do 5 repetitions with no hands, start adding more reps, working up to 10 or even 15. You can also make it harder by using a lower chair or holding a light weight against your chest. Do this once or twice a day. It's simple, it's functional, and it builds the exact strength you need to stay independent. If you've had a recent hip or knee surgery, check with your surgeon before starting. But for most people, this is not only safe, it's one of the most important things you can do. And now we arrive at number 1, the most powerful movement on this list, and it's not really a movement at all. It's a position. It's called Tadasana, or mountain pose, which has roots in yoga, but the Japanese have a similar practice rooted in martial arts and daily discipline. You stand still, feet together or hip-width apart, weight evenly distributed, spine tall, arms relaxed at your sides, and you breathe. That's it. You stand, you breathe, and you pay attention. For 60 to 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes if you're feeling ambitious. And in that short window of time, something profound happens. Your body recalibrates. Your balance system recalibrates. Your nervous system downshifts from fight or flight into a state of calm alertness. And your brain gets a rare moment to integrate sensory information, body position, breath, gravity, without the distraction of walking, sitting, or doing. This practice is deceptively simple, but the research behind it is compelling. Studies on static balance training, which is essentially what standing meditation is, have shown improvements in postural control, reduction in fall risk, and even changes in brain activity related to attention and emotional regulation in older adults. The act of standing still forces your body to make hundreds of tiny muscular adjustments every second, which strengthens the small stabilizer muscles in your feet, ankles, and core that are critical for balance but rarely get trained in conventional exercise. There's also a psychological component. When you stand still and breathe, you're practicing the skill of being present, of tolerating stillness without distraction, and that skill translates directly into better body awareness and confidence in your movement. You become more attuned to subtle shifts in your balance, which means you're less likely to be caught off guard by a stumble or a trip. Let me tell you about Helen, 77, a retired librarian from Vermont who had developed a kind of low-level anxiety around her balance. She felt unsteady all the time, even though she'd never actually fallen. She was always reaching for walls, countertops, railings, even when she didn't really need them. I introduced her to the practice of standing still for just 1 minute every morning, right after brushing her teeth. She'd stand in her bathroom, feet hip-width apart, hands at her sides, eyes open, and just breathe. She thought I was crazy at first. "That's not exercise," she said. But I told her to trust the process. After 1 week, she noticed she felt more grounded, less jittery. After 3 weeks, she stopped automatically reaching for the wall when she walked through her hallway. After 2 months, she told me she felt like she was standing in her body for the first time in years, like she'd been living slightly outside of herself and finally came home. Here's your protocol, and it could not be simpler. Stand with your feet hip-width apart or together, whatever feels more stable. Distribute your weight evenly between both feet, and within each foot, balance the weight between your heel, the ball of your foot, and the outer edge. Let your arms hang naturally at your sides. Lengthen your spine. Imagine a string gently pulling the crown of your head toward the ceiling. Relax your shoulders. Soften your jaw. Breathe naturally through your nose. Close your eyes if you feel stable, or keep them open with a soft gaze at a point on the floor a few feet in front of you. Stand here for 60 seconds. Just breathe. Notice what you notice. Do you sway? Does one foot feel heavier than the other? Can you sense the tiny adjustments your muscles are making? Don't judge it. Just observe. Do this once or twice a day, every day. It takes 90 seconds. You can do it while you wait for your coffee to brew, while you wait for the microwave, anytime. If you feel very unsteady, stand near a wall or counter so you can reach out if needed, but try not to hold on unless you have to. Over time, your balance will improve, and you'll feel the difference not just when you're standing still, but when you're moving through the world. These 6 movements, sitting and rising from the floor, deep squatting, walking backward, Seiza breathing, controlled chair sits, and standing meditation are not a workout program. They're a recalibration. They're a way of moving through your home, your day, your life that builds strength, balance, and confidence without ever stepping into a gym or strapping on a heart rate monitor. The Japanese have known this for generations. Movement doesn't have to be hard to be effective. It just has to be consistent, intentional, and woven into the fabric of your day. You can start with just one of these movements today. Pick the one that feels the most doable, the one that you can see yourself actually doing tomorrow and the day after that. Practice it every single day for 2 weeks and then add another. Within a month or 2, you'll have all 6 in your routine, and I promise you the way you feel in your body will be different. You'll move with more confidence. You'll trust your legs, your balance, your ability to get up and down and navigate the world without fear. That's what these movements give you. Not 6-pack abs or bulging biceps. Just the quiet, powerful ability to live your life on your own terms. So here's my question for you, and I really want to hear your answer. Which one of these 6 movements are you going to try first, and why that one? What about it speaks to you? Or what about your current situation makes it feel like the right place to start? Drop your answer in the comments. I read them all, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take that first step.